Moving on, the next panel is discussing about leveraging digital transformation initiatives through technology-based solutions, importance of digital transformation for public sector. Can I invite on the stage the moderator of the session, Shri Amit Singh, who's the Executive Director of Deloitte India, to please join us on the stage. Introducing our panelist, Shri Rajeev Kumar, IPS Principal Secretary, Department of Information Technology and Electronics, Government of West Bengal. Can we have a huge round of applause to welcome all the amazing panelists that we have? Shri Anurag Goel ji, who's the IAS Principal Secretary, Department of Information and Technology, Government of Assam. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us. Can we have a louder round of applause? This event is possible because of Anurag, sir. A huge round of applause. Can we have inviting Shri Vidyasagar Reddy, Advisor to Honorable Chief Minister, Information Technology, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Shri Parul Gaur Mittal, IRS Special Secretary, Department of Information Technology and Communications, Government of Arunachal Pradesh. Okay, moving on. I would like to invite Shri Gautam, Nimmagadda, founder and CEO of Quixy. Shri Gautam. Shri Mitesh Bhatt, Head Cash Management, TBS Bank. Shri Hitesh Vaidya, Associate Director, Head of Government and Banking Business, ACER. A huge round of applause. I would once again like to see if we have Shri Parul Gaur Mittal ji, IRS Special Secretary, Departments of Information and Technology and Communications, Government of Arunachal Pradesh with us. Alright, thank you so much, sir. Amit sir, the panel is all yours.
Thank you.
We have a good 1 hour to discuss this amazing panel. Thank you.
So good evening, ladies and gentlemen. So I think we are having 4th session on this digital transformation. It's quite a challenging for a moderator and speakers also to talk about something different which others have not done. Obviously, if I take out the individual sessions also, then I think we have covered a lot since morning. So what I will do, in terms of what I was thinking, that while we talk about and we share our individual experiences of bringing the digital transformation using digital tech, but I would request if panelists can also focus on 2 aspects. One is planning. How are we planning for some of these digital initiatives and the adoption challenges? So just to kind of further give more examples of what I'm thinking. We have been celebrating the success of Aadhaar, UPI, FASTag since morning. But naysayers will say that the demonetization pushed that kind of digital payment, right? Or the COVID pushed this whole virtual working. The kind of, we always had a choice of likes of Teams, Google, video conferencing, but we were always in a mode of working more in person, right? So are we kind of planning some of these initiatives because we are forced to, or we are also thinking ahead in future? For example, something which obviously everybody cannot foresee, but if you look at global trends and look at the government directives at your level, we are able to foresee. So I'll just maybe we will keep it simple. You can talk about the major initiatives which you have brought in the personal experience of implementing, but just focus on these 2 elements as well. I think it will help us learn not only to other departments, also industry in terms of how best to plan. So maybe I'll request Rajeev sir first, in terms of he can share his experience.
Good evening, everyone. As moderator correctly pointed out, we have been discussing about digital transformation this morning and about the successes which all of us have had in this area. Now I would like to talk about since morning we were talking about what are our success stories, but I would also like to talk about what we are not doing right and where exactly the transformation will. We are doing digitization, we are doing a lot of computers, we are using a lot of technology, but are we really our efforts are really qualified for the digital transformation thing? For example, e-office. I'll tell you one of the first district which got e-office a couple of years back in West Bengal. It was first in the India, not 24 Parnas. But if you see e-office, it has solved the problem of moving one file from one desk to another. But has it really made the decision making faster? Has it really made that once it lands on table, has it made the decision making faster? You must understand, let's not kind of over celebrate the thing. So what I'm saying is digital transformation is about the digital mindset which is being discussed. And I'll quote, before coming to this, I talked to one of the junior most officer in my office. And I asked him, what should I speak? And he said, you must quote this. And I'm quoting his he's just joined the services. He asked me to quote this. You campaign in poetry but govern in prose. What he's trying to say is that our talk here doesn't meet the challenges on the ground. The design perspective which he talked about, we are collecting the whole digitization process which we are talking about, e-office and even the grievance redressal system and all. It takes care of the top management. It doesn't kind of make the life of people, either the people who are down below or the citizens, that why it is happening like this. I have a couple of things. One is we do not concentrate in government about the user experience. User experience is the most fundamental thing, and we miss out on that. Steve Jobs created Apple not because he knew too much of technology. He knew what the user experience should be. He could take that user experience, he could make people love it. And government, we basically, when I'm criticizing it, it doesn't mean that it's a self-criticism. It's a kind of there are so many good things which we are doing. And if you see the digital transformation part, I will say that DBT and the communication part, Aadhaar part, this has really been a digital transformation thing. But again, coming to this, we in government, we design product with the philosophy, take it or leave it. Because we don't have which doesn't let us create a great user experience. The second is, and which is the most fundamental, and I was thinking when Mr. Srinivasan was here, I will raise it. He was additional secretary when I met him last in 2020 in one of these conferences, and he said when he moves higher and he will do GFR, general financial rules, he will change. General financial rules, the procurement, and this, they make it so difficult for the stakeholders to kind of really select a product and do the procurement. The third, which is also important, is the mindset. See, mindset is in the government, there is a feeling that the only government employees can do better or can do certain critical things. And a person taken on contract or a private agency won't do it that better. This in Indian system we need to change. For instance, we have been working with immigration. Immigration, they take with Aadhaar now, they take IRIS also, they do it. But they are very averse to doing this, giving this, outsourcing it to a private agency like in US and UK, visa people do. They are doing it to VFS. So this concept, I tried to argue with them and we did. But they are very averse to offloading this to, they say no, only the government servants can do. This we need to have a look at. And as a last thing which I would say, the design principle for what he talked about is that the person who is generating data, a person who is inputting data, he should benefit from that system. Then only system can, the data will be good, the system will sustain. That is what the design principle is, some of the things we are trying to follow. And as an invitation to people, we are doing 2 projects, and I thought this is a good gathering to say that we are trying to come up with a system like Ola Uber kind of app, because Ola Uber, the charges are, I think drivers are being charged 20% or 30%. But from government side, there is a thinking that we should come up with an app, same kind of thing, where the margins are low. In case if anyone wants to collaborate, we will be very happy. I am talking about the other states also. And second is about the payments in buses and this thing. People who are not having smartphones also, but can make digital payments without wallets and fancy stuff. People, elderly people, other people. So these are 2 projects we will be working in. In case if anyone is interested, please do contact us. Thank you, and thank you for the opportunity, especially to Anurag. Thank you for inviting us.
Thank you, Rajeev. So I'll just request Anurag sir also to kind of share experience. We have been hearing Assam stories since morning. Obviously the good ones in terms of a lot of things Assam has done and has been leading, especially in the northeast. So any specific project you would like to highlight which brought the major change and also the associated challenges which I kind of talked about in the beginning.
First of all, I will like to formally welcome you all, since I was not available in the morning because of an urgent meeting called by the Honorable Chief Minister of Assam. I apologize for the same, and but your gracious presence today in this event has made this event really a memorable one, and we are really indebted that you have come here to Guwahati. Thank you. Now moving on to the moderator's instructions. So, the IT journey has, I will say, has not been very smooth. It has been like a roller coaster in the initial periods in the northeast especially. Why I am saying, because the Department of IT was formed in somewhere in 2003 in Assam. When I think Karnataka, maybe Telangana, Tamil Nadu, Maharashtra had almost completed their e-governance journey. And now they are maybe phase 3 or 4, and we formed the department in 2003. The initial challenges in the department definitely were, what do you need for a e-governance service for a citizen? You need a network. So Amtron came to our help, like what my colleague Sundar said. Laid 3,000 kilometers of optical fiber through Amtron, took help from BSNL under USOF fund, definitely slowly expanded the network, strengthened the network. Then from CSE also Mr. Tiwari was there. So CSEs came to our help. We needed platforms to deliver services. E-literacy was very poor in Northeast, definitely. Then make people digitally literate through different programs of the state government. It was a combined effort, not only IT department, with education department. I remember in 2005, at that time, in the name of the late Prime Minister, we started the Rajeev computer literacy program, which started digitally educating the students in class 9, 10, 11, 12, so that at least when they come out of schools, they are digitally literate. So these small things slowly happened and helped us to build an ecosystem in which we can think of rolling out e-services. E-District was definitely the first platform which we started, and that is now successfully running. But after that, now major projects have been rolled out by the state government of Assam, including now we have almost 25 to 30 major departments which have their backends computerized. They offer e-services to the citizens, and SIM Madam has left, Madam Pyarelal. Under her leadership, we are trying to organize now all the services under the Right to Public Service Act, where we are trying to move on to single sign-on. But the major worry remains for us, as Sir also said, is procurement. Under government system, the procurement rules are such that if I want to buy a Sony product, due to generic specification, I might end up with, maybe Televista. because it might have also the same generic specification, which will meet the technical thing, but I know Sony is the best, but I can't purchase. Because, so we need to do something in government where if we know that there is a product which can deliver optimally in citizens service delivery, we are able to procure that. We need to have a change in the system. That is one. Then the recent one project which we did, which has changed the landscape in our state, is the e-office in the state secretariat, and which I think mentioned in Hyderabad also. And we are now going to implement within 1st April e-office in all the district offices as well as the directorates and commissioners, for which IT department is the nodal department, and we will implement it within 1st April. So that will have a seamless movement. There is a dashboard at the district collector level, at the senior secretary level, at the chief minister level, where they can monitor the pendency of the files. So gone will be the days when files are stuck for months and months together and citizens have to run from pillar to post. But again, in government, the monitoring systems are not monitored properly. This is also one of the problems in our system. Even if you have CP grams, even if the online applications come, still we receive some letters from the offices of Honorable Prime Minister also saying that this grievance was sent to you 6 months ago and has not been replied to. So a system can work to an efficiency at which we will run it. So if an application comes in your inbox and lies in that for 6 months and nothing happens, then what is the use of it? So finally, we need accountability also. We need a system which can put an alert to the higher authority. We need a system which is responsive to the citizens. So that is also important. So motivation and change management. There are many people in government, especially down below, who are having a lot of resistance to change. So slowly, but that thing is, we are winning over. Recently, a good thing, a very big thing which our Honorable Chief Minister did was a mission Bhumiputra. I would like to share that because a lot of our boys and girls who come from reserved category like SC, ST or OBC, they were running after in class 12 for their caste certificate when they have to apply for certain exams and all, and then sometimes they miss the bus because they will come to know only the requirements say 7 days ago, 6 days ago, they miss the bus. So whatever Honorable Chief Minister did, we started an online portal and we said that whoever enters class 9 and belongs to reserved category, their principal will fill up a manual form, we will give it to the district collector, they will computerize it, issue online the caste certificate in class 9 itself, digital certificate. So the digital certificate will be available to such boys and girls in class 9 itself, and then there is no original copy. You can download as many copies you want. So that means there is no running pillar to post at the time of admissions later on in your life. In class 9 you get your certificate. So this is like one big thing which Honorable CM did recently. Now we are moving to land revenue services. Already last year we started providing almost 20 booking of services online. This year we are adding another around 20 services under Vasundhara 2.0. And slowly the state is marching ahead on in this path of digital Assam. The IT department is taking care of the entire basic infrastructure. The core infrastructure is maintained by IT department, and both MTron as well as the Directorate of IT, they are partners with us in this development process. My only thing which comes into my mind is that once we move into this digital transformation, the aspect of cyber security and data security becomes very, very important, especially when all the personal data of all the citizens, in fact the government sits on so much personal data of citizens, which if it goes into the wrong hand can be misused a lot. And therefore, even when I use my, let's say, net banking or UPI payment or whatever payments, sometimes I also feel, I should use it as little as possible. Wherever I can avoid, I should avoid. Because sometimes you, like what Madam Padanja was saying, when we are downloading some app, sometimes it shows that, some malicious thing is downloading. So we don't know when we are downloading what is happening. So this cyber security issue the security threat to government apps, especially the attacks on, even like attack happened even on the LIC server, we all know. So how we can prevent, how safe we can make the environment both for the government as well as the citizens, that remains a big question. And my request to industry is to help the government in making this IT environment secure and safe experience for both the government and the citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. So, I'll just kind of mix it and change that, take the industry perspective. So, Gautam, so if you look at, to have a successful digital transformation, obviously we need infrastructure, we need network, digital, cloud, so on and so forth. But our experience is most of the time we struggle with the application development. Because, because as previous, Anurag sir also talked about, we cannot buy a particular cord, we have to go through a procurement process, and we end up actually developing bespoke applications. And government or system integrators, especially the states, struggle a lot with the quality of manpower, right? And obviously, we are still at an early time in the cloud, we are only procuring infrastructure as a service, the government clients, right? We have not moved to SaaS. And you are a no-code application provider, right? So, and we believe that no-code or low-code is a need of an hour and definitely for future. So tell us about, what you do and what you can do in terms of, to solve this problem for our government clients.
Thank you. So we are a no-code application platform where any digital solutions can be built, either G2C, G2G or G2B. We've had multiple scenarios where governments build solutions that required a very unique, specific requirement for a particular government department. And what we've done is not build a product. So we've built this platform where we've abstracted this complexity of having to code. So the ease of being able to build a software solution which overcomes this challenge of lack of skilled manpower. And in fact, we are actually bringing additional skills where the subject matter experts from the departments or subject matter experts or otherwise will be able to participate in this building of solutions, because coding is not required anymore. So you don't require these technical skills. Instead, if you have the subject matter expertise, you'll actually be able to build very high quality solutions. And time and again, with multiple solutions that have been built across various government departments and agencies, we've demonstrated that high quality solutions with accelerated timelines will be able to deliver in a very cost efficient manner as well. So also very important is that for government, it's not just about skilled manpower or bespoke solutions, right? So solutions have to be delivered at scale, and if changes have to be done, any changes to solutions have to be done at scale. And what we've seen is the total cost of ownership over a sustained period is very high when every small change that has to be made, and that change has to be made at a scale. It takes a whole lot of process and effort for these changes to be rolled out. And what we've observed is that these changes end up not making to the real world because of all these hurdles in between. The second aspect that we've seen in government is also customization at scale. So though we can say 1.4 billion people, but we are very, very different for different needs, and governance needs also change drastically across states, across departments within the same state as well. So these challenges are what we are trying to address with the no-code platform, where we are able to bring speed, ability to bring customized solutions at scale, and be able to provide a low total cost of ownership, and therefore the digital adoption can be much, much higher.
So did you get any success till now? Any government client?
Yes, multiple. So in fact, we've been working with Andhra Pradesh government for housing department. We're working with Indian Navy, DRDO, College of Defence Management, and many more government departments, utility bodies, transport departments. So they're all seeing the application, the kind of value that we are able to bring. They're able to instantly see that value. So there is no ROI after 2 years. They're able to see that ROI in 2 months, 3 months.
Okay, thanks. So we'll just move on to Parul ji. So if you look at generally, I mean, that was expected also, and perhaps because of the challenges that Northeast struggled a bit in terms of e-gov adoption, right? As sir pointed out, when we started the southern part of the country, we were already marching ahead, right? But also heartening to see that CM of Arunachal Pradesh has kind of declared this as an e-gov year, right? 2022-23. Just share your experience in terms of what extra you are planning in this year or for future big ticket, e-gov technology solutions.
So as moderator rightly talked about, and Anurag sir also mentioned, Northeast has started really late in the digital transformation. It has entered the race very late, and when we attend meetings at national level, we realize that there's still so much more to do, and there's so much scope in the digital area of the state. Now, talking about the challenges, as Anurag sir has also pointed out, the major prerequisite for any digital initiative is connectivity, and Northeast in general and Arunachal in particular, we are still faced with connectivity issues. So connectivity in fact is our biggest challenge. So, it is a pre-requirement, and for any digital initiative, this is something that we need to achieve to make any initiative successful or to make sure that it reaches the last mile. The government, it has adopted a multi-pronged strategy. So we are definitely with the USOF programs of 4G connections. BHL is implementing around 590 towers, and we are connecting 1,000 plus villages with 4G connection, hopefully by December 23. And there's another project of BSNL 4G saturation, which intends to cover every village which is left and where 4G connection is not available. It is this project will connect all remaining villages, and hopefully by December 23 all our villages will be connected. Now we are talking about communication connection, but to be honest, there are still places which are not connected by road. So communication connection is still a distant dream for many of the people. They are still waiting for power, because now some of these issues are because of the geography of the area, the terrain, the dense forest, and the adverse weather conditions. Now because of these issues, connectivity to the last mile is difficult, but it is a challenge that our government has taken. And despite this challenge and not keeping a tunnel view, we have adopted this year as the year of e-governance. I'll be talking about that later. Now, going to the second challenge. Now, second challenge is digital literacy. Digital literacy is a major issue because people are not aware. If they are aware, they don't know how to go about it. And also the literacy rate. So literacy rate in Arunachal, if you go by 2011 census, is 66%. So it is actually low than most of the states. So digital literacy is one part, technical literacy is another part. So as a state, we are trying to take both things forward. Like we are trying to take technical literacy along with digital literacy so that people are made aware. They know the benefits of using online platforms. In this context, obviously computers, giving computers to schools, colleges, or building computer infrastructure, computer training, digital infrastructure is one part of the policy. But outreaching people and informing them about the benefits of provision of online services is another part of the policy. So in this context, Arunachal has taken up Sarkar Aapke Dwar as a mega camp project where mega camps are organized in all the districts once a month, where the entire district administration goes to the camp and all kind of online services are provided there. So one is that there's public service delivery at the doorstep. Second is that people get to know, they become more aware that all these things are available online, and how simplified the process is and how it can be done online without going to offices, without going to government offices. It can be done online from their home. So besides this, we are also designing a program for enhancing digital literacy. We are talking with NISG, but we're still waiting for a concrete plan because it is a very complex subject. So it is easy to give literacy in a college or in a school, but going to people and educating it, pulling them that this will be useful for them is a difficult task. And now coming to the third challenge is resistance to change. Now as government servant, as business people, we all know that we become comfortable in an environment, in our work environment, in our settings, and we are not very willing to modify, or we are not welcoming to the changes which come from outside. But we also realize that change is the constant thing. So we, through top-down approaches, through training, through retraining, as a state, we have adopted a lot of initiatives in the government department as well. We call it business re-engineering, like e-office. Now, Arunachal actually is standing first in terms of usage of e-office in the northeast states. We have already expanded e-offices to the district headquarters and in certain districts even to the line departments. Again, connectivity is an issue. There are few districts which cannot use it properly because of the connectivity issues, especially the border areas and the areas which are mountainous regions. But we are looking forward that maybe in an year or two, when the connectivity stabilizes, then the usage will increase and hopefully every file will be done through online system also. Arunachal has also adopted e-cabinet, where all cabinet decisions, right from putting up the node to cabinet decisions to monitoring, everything is done through paperless system and online system. Now this is a new system, this is a new initiative, and we can see the results because it is difficult. In a large state like Arunachal, it is difficult to ensure that the cabinet meetings are held regularly. So through e-cabinet, virtual meetings can be held. Because everything is done online, virtual meetings can be held and decisions can be taken. So that there's so that the decision-making process doesn't stop in the government. Besides this, I would like to talk about a recent launch that we have done, is that of the tourist DILP. I'm sure people who had tried to come to Arunachal Pradesh knows that there's an inner line permit that we need to come to Arunachal. Now it has been observed, though we have shifted to an online system since 2013, but the implementation part was not as good because of various reasons. One being that the people who are visiting are not filling the form properly. Secondly, district administrations are not giving the approvals on times. So keeping in view of the fact that to encourage more tourism, we should have a seamless ILP system. So in the last month, in fact, our Honorable CM has launched and the portal. In this, we have removed any government approval for tourist ILP. So people can simply put in their IDs, get an OTP, fill that OTP in the application form, and the EILP will be generated automatically. So complete government intervention has been removed. Obviously, they are constrained that it is only for tourist EILP for 2 weeks period. So this, as a state, we think is a major step because we have removed government intervention, and as the idea of the Honorable PM also, we are moving towards more less government and more governance. So these are few of the initiatives that we are taking. But besides I'll just give a quick brief of the 24. So in the year of e-governance, we have taken up 22 projects. And I'm happy to say that we have completed almost 14 of them, and by March we are planning to put the remaining projects also on board. Some of the tourist EILP I have mentioned, then there's CM dashboard where real-time monitoring of the schemes is being done. Then e-Pragati is there, geotagging is there where real-time monitoring, GIS-based data is being used. Connectivity, I've talked about. Hospital management system is there, then there's IFMS. So there are a whole era of projects that we are doing. Now again, as when we do these projects, we realize that there's a lot of disconnect with the market. And we end up with projects mostly with NIC or maybe some government agency. Because when we do tender, we don't receive enough applications, or the specifications are such that the government, or maybe it's an easy route for us as well. So approaching government organizations or PSUs is an easier way. So I'll use this platform to send an invitation that do come to Arunachal, give your proposals. We are doing a lot of schemes, and in fact our new CSS joined in June, and we are still looking for a low orbit satellite. Because VSAT networks are so dismal that we are looking for a low orbit satellite, but we have not got any proposal as of now. So I'll use this platform to the market that whenever we do tenders or what your proposals are, please will be more than willing to see them and how we can cooperate and coordinate in taking the digital transformation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. So, just to pick 2 points for Hitesh to respond. One is, of course, ma'am talked about last mile, computing problem in a particular state. And second is the procurement. Because in industry, we always talk about, the government is very rigid, right? They only end up selecting L1. But Parul is saying that, she does not have option in terms of procurement, that she does not get a good quality bids. Just share your experience from an industry perspective. What have you experienced? What can be done?
Yeah, thanks. I think I am a little bit, I am one of the person who will be a little divergent from whatever discussions that we have had throughout the day today. I represent ACER India. We are essentially the hardware manufacturers. We have spoken a lot about, all this digital transformation which is catching up, which has already caught up, and a lot of transformation which is likely to happen as we move forward in our digital transformation journey. So the hardware industry is going to remain the constant factor throughout this digital transformation. Some of the points throughout the day I have been capturing and taking notes of because a lot of data points have been thrown across during the conclave, during the the presenters that were present here. One thing which I can assure you is the way Indian economy is going and the way we are likely to see the growth happening across various paradigms within India. The transformation is one thing, the digital transformation is one thing which is definitely going to lead this entire transformation journey for the country. Let me throw another important data point here. Though we don't like to compare ourselves along with China, but the size of population that we have in China and the size of population that we have in India, that's almost similar to both these countries. China is today almost an $18 trillion economy, while India is about $3.5 trillion economy as we speak. So if we have to transform ourselves from this $3.5 to $18 trillion, and that's what we are likely to see in next 20 years, next 10 years, the vision of Government of India is that we need to reach somewhere around 10 trillion maybe by the year 2032, and we're looking for additional another $10 trillion maybe another 10 years down the line. And if you see the total addressable market for the hardware devices in these two countries, today India has a TAM of about 15 million devices, so which means that the total consumption of these devices in India is about 15 million. And if you compare that with China, that's about 60 to 65 million devices they consume every year. Now that's the transformation which we are likely to foresee in the next 20 years. So one, I can definitely assure that we are in very safe hands with the kind of presentations that have been going on throughout the day, and the wonderful industry and the government perspective that we have witnessed. So I'm sure we are very well in safe hand as an industry. We have a lot to offer as we move forward in this digital transformation journey. The second important point here would be that once we transform ourselves, then this devices that we consume, that we are going to consume, we should not just look at what we are going to do today. We need to look a little further, because we do not want this country to become a dumping ground for the devices or the electronic waste that we are going to generate as we move forward in this digital transformation journey. So one point which I just want to put across, since we are talking about public procurement here, and a lot of senior bureaucrats and officials there as co-panelists and people sitting over here as an audience, that how do we bring the perspective with regard to, how do we reduce the carbon footprint in terms of the digital procurement that we are going to foresee in the next 20 years? Can we make our public procurement system adapt to certain standards where we encourage organizations to come out with the technologies and products which help in reducing the carbon footprint? On one hand, we talk about, our Honorable Prime Minister talking about achieving a carbon net neutral goal by 2070. So there's a complete anomaly in this, in this entire scenario. On one hand, we need to reach a carbon neutral goal by 2070, and on the other side, with the amount of transformation that is going to happen on the digital front, there is going to be immense devices and hardware which is going to get dumped in the country. So we have to bring our public procurement system in such a manner, it needs to be developed in such a manner that we encourage these manufacturers of such kind of technologies which help in reducing the overall carbon footprint for all the devices that they manufacture. I'll just give a very brief perspective here as an organization. What ACER is doing is, currently we have come out with few of the devices which we have termed as a Vero range of devices. And these devices, we are using post-consumer recycled material for manufacturing all these devices, which is actually helping in reducing carbon footprint by almost 20 to 25% for manufacturing one single device. So that's the sort of material that we are doing. And I'm sure there are many other organizations and even the other IT hardware majors who are getting into these kind of technologies, who are trying to bring in those sustainable technologies for the future for our generations. That's a perspective I wanted to leave this entire panel with, so that all these things can get adopted into the public procurement ecosystem. That's all from my side.
Thanks, Hitesh. So I'll just request Vidyasagar ji, in terms of, like I said in the beginning that, and sir also agreed that, kind of Andhra has been, or southern state have been, flag bearer in terms of e-gov adoption. But we've also noticed their plan for future. I mean, even the erstwhile Andhra and also the current shape in Andhra. Just share, some of the ideas or the initiative which current government is working in terms of looking at the future.
Good evening, everyone. There are two major areas in which government is working on providing services. One is service delivery, the other one is grievance redressal. In both areas, the state government has been pretty mature and advanced in what they are doing. Having digital platforms to support citizens with either mobile or web-based or telephone-based or even in-person ways of inputs of requesting services, and having an advanced mature state of digital platforms behind the scenes to support the service delivery persons to provide citizen services. There are workflows in there, SLAs and alerts, dashboards, reports, constant monitoring, performance metrics, standard usual things to make sure that the system is effective and the performance is constantly improving. Same way on the grievance redressal portion, citizens have multiple ways of having their voices heard, provide inputs to the government agencies, and again the Spandana is the name of the redressal system that we have, documents the citizen complaints and has the workflow to go all the way from last mile functionary to the head of the organization or the department secretaries, as the case needs to be, to make sure that the citizen grievances are either redressed positively, or if there is a reason why it cannot be redressed, the citizen is provided with a clear explanation as to why it cannot be redressed, and hope that the citizen understands that. So this journey is constant and evolving. On the service delivery, we are, I think, on generation 3. We started with what we had 2 years ago, and an improved platform was taken live last year. Now they are again looking at how can they improve the SLAs and also the satisfaction metrics for those things. Same way on the Spandana, the grievance redressal system, we have Spandana 2.0 going off now. Some of the ways we look at improving these things. So the common question, again, aligning with the earlier discussion, is what are the lessons learned and how can we make sure that when we do our digital transformation, we're not running into roadblocks or problems. Some couple of things that we have noticed is what we've heard before, digital thinking. So our approach has been, don't take this digital transformation opportunity as a merely taking the paper process and transferring it to the computers. So an example was, we have about 500 plus citizen services that we digitally currently deliver to the citizens at their request. So as an example, one of them was some certificate or some approval that needs to be delivered from the revenue department. So we asked the revenue department, how are you going to do this? Give us the workflow and we'll digitize it. They came back with, here is the process on paper, this is what we do. And it had 8 or 9 government officials of varying, increasing levels of responsibility touching the request. So Honorable CM suggests that we take every opportunity to reduce the SLAs and hold accountable and provide transparency to the citizens. So we've asked the principal secretary of the department, is this the best we can do? And is there a need to have 8 or 9 people touch this simple request, or seemingly simple request to an outsider like me? So a lot of our practices are hand-me-downs from, I would say, decades of how government was working. So merely they were just transferring those things. So secretary had called the concerned department officials and asked, okay, why do we need to have this person or that person or the other person get involved in this process? It's force of habit. So within a few minutes, the department officials themselves told us it can be simplified, where 4 or 5 people are enough, depending on the magnitude of the request, to provide this service. So if you take an average of 1 to 2 days for an official to respond to the request, typically if they want, they can do it within a few minutes, but assuming that in the middle of their things and the general SLA, what used to take 15 to 20 days can now be done below 10 days. That's a significant improvement. So if government has this mindset that we're not simply transferring what we do now on paper to computer as a digitalization, but use this opportunity for process re-engineering. You don't have to be in everything, but at least where you clearly see an opportunity, start doing that. That will be a huge win. You can shorten the timelines of delivery, improve performance, and reduce cost as well. That's clearly one point that helped us. The other one was build versus buy. Almost every department or every person thinks that their request is unique, their requirements are unique, right? We all want to think that what we do is special, it's not generic like what everyone else does. So the tendency is, anytime there is a need, they start with, okay, we want to have a custom software, custom platform developed for our requirements, because we are not like the rest of them. So here is where people spend a lot of time reinventing the wheel. Maybe there are some special requirements that can be tailored to this department, but most of the time you have to think about this build versus buy dichotomy. do you really need to build every time you need something? I mean, most of what government does, or for that matter, what corporate offices do too, they're not unique. Most of them, they've been doing something similar, or other companies, other customers, other government organizations have been doing something similar. So if we can borrow from that, then you're not reinventing the wheel, you're not redeveloping something. There are a lot of products in the market that are mature enough that you can use, adapt, maybe tailor for your needs, but that will be cheaper, faster, and more robust for operation as well as support. So you're not creating something new that's going to take a lot of resources first to build and then to operationalize and support and monitor as well. So that would be the second point. In line with that, we talk about technology a lot, emerging technologies and digitalization. So the tendency, it's good that lots of states engage in friendly competition, that's what we want, in addition to companies as well. But one thing we have noticed is there is a tendency to get carried away, if I may use that word, with the latest shiny thing. So people talk about emerging technologies, everybody can rattle off all these things, AI, ML, IoT, blockchain, deep analytics, and AR, VR, all those things. So there's nothing wrong with any of those things. But in our observation, government requires mature, stable technologies. This is not the place to experiment. So there is a space for R&D. That's mostly in the private sector, as well as government designated labs where we can do R&D, we should do R&D. So I'm not saying we shouldn't support the latest technologies. For example, we use facial recognition, AI-based technology for attendance. A lot of our benefit schemes as well as government expend is dependent on attendance of students as well as other beneficiaries. So we don't want to take a lot of time and resources to capture attendance. So facial recognition is a very good technology, mature enough as we have seen from the presentation from Sri Sundar Garu also. So that's something that we can adopt. Whereas, take blockchain as an example. It has been going on for many years. Other than cryptocurrency, we have not seen good use cases. Financial accounting is one use case. Logistics is another use case, but I personally have not seen where they are very well established and doing things. So for a government agency to say, we want to do a blockchain, it's good that we want to do, but is there a use case for you that actually benefits? If not, is it worth wasting time on that? So the counterweight to that is, like I said again, we don't want to discourage innovation or new technologies. What we do is ask government departments for their real world problems. And then we conduct hackathons, asking students or startups or innovators or out-of-the-box thinkers to come in and try to solve those problems. These are real governmental problems, so innovative solutions will come up as part of the hackathon. What are the best solution that wins? They get some prize money or their encouragement or their startup, they can actually start taking this business. So government does encourage new technologies and innovative solutions this way, but not necessarily going after, we have to do this because it's cool or we want to check the box or something like that. Those would be some of the points that I would like to share and then seize my time.
Thank you. I like the one which you said every department feels that they are unique, right? And that's what we also see as a consultant, Nobody wants to collaborate, nobody wants to take anybody's application, they want to create their own. So they want to control. I mean, it's all about, at times, it's a legacy thing also, that you have built, you have not borrowed or using somebody else's. So last but not least, surely, so I'll ask Mitesh. So Mitesh, if you look at, with regards to financial inclusion, the government of India has done enough, right? So they have created systems like GST and this whole e-way bill system. Then you have a UPI, the most successful one. There are also their associated, kind of supported organizations coming with the ONDC kind of platform to further accelerate this e-commerce among the small time players. So from a bank side and a DBS, how do you see some of these changes are good enough, you are able to do it, improve your customer base, or you are expecting more from government?
Thanks, Amit. So, first of all, thank you, Anurag sir, for hosting us in your wonderful city, and Gov Connect for giving us the platform to share the forum with this distinguished panel, right? Now, before I start to delve into what you just asked, Amit, I would actually just take the liberty of saying that if someone else were to walk into this forum today, right, and not knowing the designations of the panelists here, they would all think this is a tech forum, right? It feels like I am in a startup conclave, and various different startups, right, from healthcare to agri-tech to, we've spoken about so many different sectors which are being transformed in the government organizations. And it is, if you combine this strength of the innovation and ambition with what is happening in the private sector, I think India will tip the scales of the entire world's transformation put together. So I think we are at a cusp of a really transformational moment. Coming to the actual enabling, right? So I personally think of banks or industry players as enablers, right? I don't think government itself on its own can deliver the last mile experience that it endeavors to, right? We all have to play our part as banks, as service providers, as citizens. We all have to play our part in making those aspirations come to life, right? We've been talking about data security, we've been talking about interlinkages of systems, we've been talking about user experience, we've been talking of a lot of things, right? But how to take that to the last mile? For example, let's say in DBS's case, we have UPI for so many years, but when COVID hit, we actually made real good use of it. So a lot of our MSME customers were struggling to get paid, right? Because they could not, while they could deliver stuff, they could not actually get paid. And what we did was we created an app, which was a simple app on QR code using UPI, where they could get paid remotely, right? Because everyone wanted remote payments, and we did that in record time, and our MSME customers actually saw value, right? And then as you expand, right? So the government has created so many different tools and organizations, right? Which we have to then effectively start using and offering those services to end users, right? So from a business perspective, when intra-country trade is happening, right? We have GST and we have e-way bill. But how can we use those pieces of data to fund customers faster, right, without asking for the need of paper, which is what we are doing in a very big way today, right? And you mentioned ONDC, right? ONDC is such a promising concept and something that is possibly going to democratize e-commerce and make the world stand up and take notice, right? Like what UPI did to the payment industry, possibly ONDC is the bigger disruptor in the market. And what we are doing here as a bank is we are enabling the sellers, we are enabling our SMEs, our the smallest of small professionals who want to sell homemade stuff online. Today they do not have access, and if they do not make any money, right? How can we empower them to get on this platform which is created by the government, along with the assurance of timely payments and timely settlement of transactions, is what we as an enabler should play a part in here, right? And then there is this whole logistics ecosystem that the government is building. How can we help the logistics service providers reduce their cost, right? At the end of the day, our job is to enable citizens as individuals and businesses to optimize their daily life, right? So as a bank, our motto is live more bankless, right? We want to be invisible. We just want to make sure that whoever uses our service can just get on with their lives. They don't need to know that, oh, I had to go to a bank. We want to make it frictionless, right? And we spoke about the piece of education. What we have to do as play a part, we have booths at our branches. We now have 600 branches across the country. And what we do is we set up these booths, we reach out to our customers and educate and train them on digital tools, on security, on what all can they do with the various tools available to them. So I think this is just the beginning, and we are at really an inflection point. Thank you.
Thanks, Mitesh. So I think we heard quite a diverse view, so we have got 2 more minutes. If there are any questions, 1 or 2, we can take it from audience. Otherwise, I'll thank my panelists.
One thing I'd like to say that, like my colleague from Arunachal also said, the connectivity remains the biggest problem for us, because even today along national highways in Assam, forget about internet connectivity, there are voice mobile telephony shadow areas. We are speaking in 2022 on national highways. You forget about state highways and village roads where there may not be any even voice telephone. Similar was the fate of, everyone knows in the country, BharatNet phase 1. I don't know for whom it was implemented, but though the fiber reached some Gaur panchayats, but those fibers are not having any bandwidth. They are not active, there is no last mile connectivity. So even I was talking to Sir, West Bengal and Assam both are struggling for BharatNet phase 2. I think for 4 or 5 times tender has been done, but not successful. So until unless we improve connectivity, the seamless delivery of e-services, at least in Northeast, for the last mile will remain a distant dream. We might be able to provide in district headquarters or sub-regional headquarters or maybe some circle headquarters, but to the villagers, if they have to travel 20 kilometers to get a e-service, then it is not a e-service anymore. So because the CSE also cannot be located in the same village in which the person is residing. So as common, I will say, industry and government, we need to think together of finding solutions for better net connectivity within the country to the last mile, so that the digital dream of every one of us can be achieved. So that was my observation.
Thank you. Check. Thank you so much for this amazing panel. I think we were well within our time. Thank you for the reminder, although. So this was such an amazing panel to discuss, and I so totally agree with Mitesh ji. I host a lot of education conferences. I host a lot of education technology conferences, and barring the the designations of the esteemed panelists or the esteemed audience that we had today, this would have been really a digital technology transformation summit. Without having a proper, and it's so surprising that the government machinery has transformed in such a way that they could give a competition to any CTO of an organization, any well-established organization. It's a huge plus point that our bureaucracy is at that level now, that any private CTO will have a challenge answering the questions that or answering the points that our bureaucracy will raise in front of them to solve the problems.
Absolutely. In fact, so the designation should be CTOs and Chief Strategy Officers and so on, because I mean the kind of thinking that is going on is
absolutely amazing. I'm gobsmacked, since morning, and it's such a wonderful and a delightful change. And as truly said, India is going to be, I think, very, very soon. We are the 5th largest. Within the next 5 years, I think we'll be, number 2 or number 3 very, very soon, with the kind of mechanism or the machinery that we have developed within the last 8, 10, 12 years. A huge kudos to all the bureaucrats that transformed India to what it is now. Thank you so much for this amazing panel. I would now like to call on the dais Mr. Vikram Kumar MV, who is the Vice President of Control S, India's first and only certified Tier 4 data center, to join us and felicitate this amazing panel, starting off with our amazing moderator, Mr. Amit Singh, Executive Director, Deloitte, India. Such an amazing panel deserves a huge round of applause, without the anchor saying that you have to, give this applause to them. Shri Rajeev Kumar, IPS, Principal Secretary, Development of Information Technology and Electronics, Government of West Bengal. Shri Anurag Goel, IAS Principal Secretary, Department of Information Technology, Government of Assam. Thank you so much, sir. Without your vision, this conclave wouldn't have been possible. Shri J. Vidyasagar Reddy, Advisor to Honorable Chief Minister, Information Technology, Government of Andhra Pradesh. Ms. Parul Gaur Mittal, IRS Special Secretary, Department of Information Technology and Communications, Government of Arunachal Pradesh. Shri Gautam Nimmagadda, Founder and CEO, Quixy. Mr. Mitesh Bhatt, Head Cash Management, TBS Bank. And Shri Hitesh, Vaidya, Associate Director, Head for Government and Banking Business, ACER. Can we have a louder round of applause? Requesting all the esteemed panelists to please center stage for a group photograph.